Hello and welcome to our podcast, The Art of Experiences, where we are talking to you today from our base in Dubai, the UAE. We are the guys who have created, enjoyed and choreographed some of the best experiences in the best locations around the world.
Today we will be podcasting episode number 12 in our new series, The Art of Experiences, where we will be discussing how technologies change the way we work. We are Nick, Ravi and Arjun. We are designers, architects and techies. Above all, we are on a journey to tell the wider world why some experiences just work and some do not.
Okay, so guys, it's great to be here. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation without any glitch.
Yeah, me too. I mean, before we get to the conversation, guys, some of you may have noticed, particularly some of our fans in Saudi, this is a big shout out to you, Tamim, that we weren't podcasting for the last couple of weeks. That's my reason. I was the reason for that. I was off for a little while, welcoming a new baby boy into the world. So a big shout out to him as well, even though he won't understand what we're saying. So thanks for your patience, guys. Thanks for still waiting for us to broadcast our thoughts and things about this week about technology. So I guess without further ado, all of us are surrounded by technology. Those of you that are listening on your super duper Apple AirPod headphones or similar will be able to hear the sound of a machine in the background. I think that's probably part of the way technology is changing the way we work. Our 3D printer is buzzing away in the background, a noise that the guys missed while I was looking after my new son. Now back to welcome us in the office is the sound of our printer, which is printing out something in pink today. But anyway, without further ado, guys, technology, how is it changing the way we work? And I think, where do we start in the journey of time in the work we're doing? I mean, I remember, because I'm old, way back when, let's say, when probably around the time Noah was building the Ark, I visited a thing called a printing press, and it was for the Guardian newspaper. And the Guardian newspaper, obviously is an esteemed publication, and they were printing their newspaper using metal cut-out lettering that they used to have to what they call typeset on a rack. All of the letters, all of the words had to be typeset and laid out, and the pictures that were in the newspaper had to have a special type of printing plate created for them. And this was done every day when the newspaper was printed. And every day they would go through the same task, and it was an art. It was a beautiful art, creating the lettering and getting the spacing right and understanding how the page layout worked, etc. And then came computers, and all of a sudden everybody was a publisher. Everybody who knew how to switch a computer on and type a word could publish something. And then the same thing happened with photography. Years ago and still now, those of us, and I'm one of them, who love the art of taking photography. Taking pictures, used to use a camera where you had to understand the settings, and the picture you took was recorded on film, and you couldn't see that picture until you developed that picture. Right. So if you missed the moment, you were screwed. Yeah. And nowadays you have these modern digital cameras where if you press the shutter, you get 1,500 or so pictures of the same thing coming out. Yeah. Exactly. And you can adjust them and do all that kind of thing on the fly. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, everybody became a photographer, and in the same way, I think the same or similar kind of revolution has happened in design, whereby the advent of things like Canva, the online tool, and Adobe Illustrator and various other softwares have liberated the world to express themselves using technology to create their own 2D designs. And then as we go further away from the kind of mimicking, if you like, of what the art used to be to what the art was, you get into the areas of animation and three-dimensional representations, virtual reality, augmented reality, and all these things that are now tools that everyone can use if you invest the time. I myself recently learned how to refresh my skill, shall I say, on 3D modeling, and I used a free software called Blender to learn how to make 3D models. And And it was brilliant. Now I now have the skill that allows me to come up with an idea in my head, turn it into a model on Blender, take it on a SD card, plug it into that machine just over there that you guys can't see, print it out, and it's done. I have my own factory, my own design. Everything I have here within this laptop are over there on our 3D printer. Now, it's changed. That's just some aspects of what I see the changes happen. You know, I was talking to someone the other day. Again, it's just like Nick reminiscing, but it's true. I remember when I trained to be a product designer. Again, around the time Noah was building the Ark, we used a thing called a drawing board, and on that drawing board we had a thing called a set square. And it was a thing and it had an attachment on it, and you could press this attachment and you could turn the ruler around to a different angle and draw a line with a thing called a rotary pen, and you have different thickness of pens that you could draw with. I mean, all of this stuff now, it's an art form that's kind of been replaced with everyday easy to access technologies, from there comes a whole host of opportunities at the delivery end for delivering your ideas in new ways, and everybody can do it to varying degrees of skill and quality. But also behind that there comes a whole load of tools that enable you to take whatever it is that's in your mind and create something. Yeah. And sometimes you start that digital journey and you don't know, or technology journey, you don't know where it's going to end up. Yeah. You start off with one idea and then you end up in a different place. Like with this is something I printed, by the way. It's a lampshade, a tiny one. I started off with the idea of wanting it to be like that. And I was playing around with the software and I created something which I think is quite cool and quite interesting. And I think it's the same for photography, the same for drawing, the same for general arrangement drawings, the same for design. So many aspects of what we do in our field have completely been revolutionized by the use of technology. And it's kind of cool. If you don't move with the times, you kind of get left behind. But you know, one wonders, when I think of these things, of the journey we've taken in the years I've been doing this, and what the journey in the future is going to be like. You know, if you move forward in time with augmented reality and holographic technology and all this kind of stuff, you know, the way we deliver experiences, or the way we realize our imagination so that other people can actually experience what we imagine, is limitless. You know, we read that was it Facebook have employed 10,000, or should we say Meta, as they're called now. They've employed 10,000 people in Europe to create new augmented virtual reality experiences through their organization, and they're pushing that as a new technology platform. Suddenly the stuff that was done by NASA can be done on your handheld device or on your laptop. Oh, it's a message from my wife. Or done on your laptop. It's amazing, huh? And you must have experienced the same in your professions, guys. I mean, you know, in the world of architecture and design and, you know, the management of projects, etc. You must have experienced the same.
Yeah, I think, of course, the advent of technology has actually made it possible for multiple iterations to be done. That's of true. The same design. You know, yeah. I mean, back in the day when I started my career, I started the same drafting boards, hand drawings, and you know, using the rotary pen and using the T square and the set square. Yeah. And at that point of time, making any change in the drawing was a tremendous task. You know, reproduction of drawings was again a tremendous task. Yeah. And that's where we used to have those something which is called as blueprints, where you have to have the ammonia printed drawings you have to do. Yeah. But now those are replaced by technology. AutoCAD is the name of the game in architecture today. With so many different other softwares like SolidWorks, 3D Max, and Rhino, and so on and so forth. What it had made is that, you know, it has made seemingly impossible designs made it possible. You know, yeah. I mean, when you talk about parametrics, you know, and the famous architect who is no more within us, Zaha Hadid, you know, you look at her buildings and it's absolutely impossible to draft them manually, you know. Yeah. But the software and the technology actually makes it possible. It's not only to design it, but also to actually in the construction phase of these buildings as well, where they can use it, where they can, nowadays you can simulate the entire building models, you know, using the technology. So technology has definitely really help the humankind move forward, and I always read about these arguments, so-called arguments, that is technology going to take over us as humans, or are we the humans the better off, the better versions of technology? But I just understand one thing is that technology is an enabler, and it enables us to perform our task in daily life in a better way, in a much more faster way, in a much more efficient way. And as we move forward, as Nick was talking about meta and augmented reality, virtual reality, a hybrid of physical and virtual reality, wherein you can actually be part of the virtual reality. It's all in there. I mean, I think as you move forward, more and more our life will become. I don't think so. There will be any boundaries between a virtual or a augmented reality and actual life. I think it will just be merged, and it will be one life which is having a digital life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, I would actually start with simple things where technology has touched us. I mean, not getting specific into the design dream per se. The way we communicate with our colleagues, the way we communicate with other stakeholders in what we do, the way we communicate with our clients. At one point of time, I believe it could have been letters. I was not born then, probably. And then it was mostly phone calls. And then it became emails. And now everybody is stuck to WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So how that very simple aspect of how you effectively communicate with different stakeholders within the organization. Yeah, somewhere there was fax too. Forget to mention that.
Yeah.
So starting with that very simple thing of communication, how technology has touched it and changed it completely. With even if the client is not in the same country as where the project is happening, it doesn't matter. He can get live updates. For that matter, when the pandemic happened, how people started communicating, coming together, and co-working started happening. It's again based on technology.
It's very interesting you mentioned that. Yeah.
So and all those Zoom calls and how the productivity is ensured that the productivity is not going to go any lesser than before, and how you can collaborate with each other, sitting in your own comfortable space of your house and still ensuring that the deadlines are being met, the client is still happy. So it's basically technology pushing us forward, not just in terms of the tools we use, but also the tools that enables us in communicating with other stakeholders, at the same time ensuring the quality of the project that you're part of. It can be any project, right from construction to software development to anything of that sort.
Yeah, I agree with you, Arjun. I mean, there's a couple of things that come to mind as you were speaking, actually. The first thing that is now that we're actually now using tools to collaborate online. So we use them ourselves in our daily work, don't we, where we can have our colleagues in wherever they are in the world, or even here if working from their home. We can see the same screen, we can edit what we're seeing on the screen, and we can collaboratively work together to build something in that virtual world, which is something that wasn't possible before. And we've been forced, I think, I use that word in the loosest possible terms, because we're driven by trying to do new things, trying to reinvent what we do every day. We force ourselves to try and reinvent it. If it stays the same, it's dying. I always say that. But we've been perhaps it's better to say it's been more widely accepted, the use of collaborative tools in the internet space to develop ideas, be it a simple mind map like we were doing the other day, through to customer journey mapping, through to a design, through to BIM modelling like we were talking about the other day, and how the use of BIM modelling and things can be used in the world of construction to help understand different aspects. That was the first thing I was thinking. The second thought I had was that actually technology is not all good. So I'm into it. I like the idea of evolving and learning and doing new things. But for me, there's still a little bit of a chasm between the idea and creating that idea using technologies. So you say it's a tool, Ravi. You're right. It is a tool. It's something that allows us to express ourselves, like I was describing with Blender and things. But the interface is still pretty shit. You still have to learn it. It's not intuitive. it's not like picking up a pencil and drawing. I mean, everyone can draw. Whether they can draw well or not is another story. So that interface between technology and your ability to express yourself with it depends on your ability to operate the computer in most cases. However, there are examples that I've seen where the interface between us and the digital world is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you that feel of really doing that thing in the physical world, but it's in the digital world. And the example I give is of sculpting clay. So when my son was still in my wife's stomach, they gave us a scanned image of our son before he was born, and I thought it would be quite fun to create a digital model of my son before he was born. So I took a block of digital clay on the computer, and then I used the tools in the computer to sculpt it, to create the head and the eyes and the nose and the ears and things, and then I printed it out, and sure enough, the thing I created does look kind of like my son. Even that was challenging, but there is another piece of technology that I've used before, which is like a pen, and as you look at the screen and you see the block of clay, you can actually sculpt the clay, and it gives you haptic feedback. So the haptic is like a pressure. So if you push the tool into the clay, you feel it in your hand, even though the clay is digital. For me, this is magic.
Yeah.
Somebody's actually thought, okay, we've got cool software. We know that there are cool people out there that can do this in the physical world, but how do we make it work in a digital world so it feels the same?
Yeah.
And that's the bit for me that's missing. Often the question's asked, do you know how to use InDesign? Do you know how to use Illustrator? Do you know how to use this? That's bullshit. I mean, it's like rubbish. You shouldn't have to learn the software to be able to express yourself. You don't with this amazing tool that I was describing. And that, I think, for me, is the direction that this needs to go in, where the interface between the software, and we know you can do anything in technology, providing you've got the capacity, the processor grunt and the bandwidth and all the other stuff. The innovation in the future for me is the middle bit between the people and the technology, where the point at which you interface with that technology and how you get it to do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
And then, for me, that's it. And that's where things will win and where they'll lose. I'm bored of having to learn software. It's rubbish.
I think you're right, Nick, and I think I think the technology started by industry-specific technology which was developed, and then it was expected that anybody from a particular design industry will know the design software, anybody from engineering will know the engineering software, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
But now I think it's an age wherein, or the era wherein, I think that boundary are pretty much smirched. Actually, they are not there. And anyone can learn any software, and anyone can learn any tools. And I think what Nick, you're trying to make a point here is that I think the software itself should be so intuitive and easy to learn, as if you're picking up a pencil and sketching it, because that is intuitive. That is intuitive. You pick up a pen and you start sketching is intuitive. Whether the sketch is legible or not legible, it's a different thing. But it's an idea which is put on paper. So that's where I think you're right. I think that's probably the next step that the technology or the smart engineers should be working on, and also I think of these guys, this thing, guys, that how technology has actually influenced our life to such an extent that it has almost changed it, because when I was growing up, there were a couple of icons we were looking forward to. Maybe it's a sports icon, maybe it's a Hollywood or from where I come, Bollywood actors or actresses, or maybe all these great scientists or national leaders that we used to look forward to. Today, that has absolutely replaced, and there is a huge, a revolution going on online, especially in the social media circles, wherein, or whether it is on the YouTube, whether it is on Instagram, whether it is on Twitter, people are following those regular people who are actually posting content day in, day out over there. I mean, for example, my 6-year-old son actually follows a YouTuber who's actually an expert in playing Minecraft games, and so it becomes so much of a niche for that particular thing, because my kid loves the Minecraft game. He loves playing it, and now he's actually following that YouTuber who's playing those Minecraft games and shows them various stealth modes and stealth moves and this and that, you know. So I mean, it has completely changed, you know. Nowadays the influencers are the key people, and technology has given birth to these influencers, you know.
It's democratized the world, hasn't it, Ravi?
Yes,
I mean, now
yes, in a real sense,
you
actually.
could be talking to a guy in Burma, or a guy in Brazil, or somebody in London, and it doesn't really matter where you are. The access to talent is no longer restricted by your geography. You can be anywhere.
I'll give it's a very ironic example with technology and the original analog way, I would say, you know.
Yeah.
I follow one guy on Instagram when he's a sketch artist.
Yeah.
All right. He sketches architectural sketches. He sketches even normal human beings, and then he has videos posted on how you sketch trees and how you. But he is sketching that with his hand, with his normal rotary pens and everything, but he's making videos and posting them online, and people are following that, you know. So it's a complete 360 world which has come together, wherein even doesn't really matter whether you're still an artist using a paintbrush and painting that, but you can actually digitize your art or digitize what you do and have many followers, you know. I would say it's a digital world out there which has been created because of technology.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you're right, Ravi. I mean, like with all these things, there's no one answer, is there? You know, I mean, there's I talked about it. You know, like they used to do things this way in the past. You know, it's not that it's wrong. It's just that there's now other ways. There are other tools in the palette to describe yourself creatively, or in writing, or your thoughts, or whatever. You know, in the ancient times, it was stone and a hammer and a chisel. And now it's digital clay. Both are still right, you know, but they're just a different way of expressing yourself. I mean, I remember years ago when I first started my career, I was working on a project for an automotive company, and we were designing a car. And in those days, and I think still today, they were using clay to model the car. So they don't use digital clay. I was quite
surprised on that.
They don't use digital clay, they use actual clay. It's a special type of clay that when you heat it up, it goes soft. So you can shape the car with this clay, and then you heat it, and then you shape it, and then you heat it, and then you shape it. And the skill involved in doing it is off the scale. You know, you imagine, in fact, there's a beautiful video online if you guys are interested in looking at what I mean. It's a project that Rolls-Royce did recently for one of their specialist cars. And you can see in the video an example of how they're shaping the car using this particular actual physical clay. But also alongside that, as it's evolved over the years, technology's come into play where now they throw a laser over the clay model, and they can test the shape, they can see the lines, they can do all these sorts of things. It's kind of complemented by the technology as opposed to being replaced by the technology. So the challenges they faced in the past have now been resolved with the addition of technology over a physical experience, which I think is also quite interesting. You know, where you're in the driving seat as the artist, the technology is your slave, but it's helping you to create what you need to create in a more in an easier way. It's helping you keep the line straight. It's helping you to get the curves right. It's helping you manage, you know, any nasty surprises that might come along. It's much better. The augmented, if you like, combination of physical and digital together is really cool.
I mean, the watch that you're wearing, Nick, I mean, the wearable technology.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and that also has revolutionized the way we look at health today.
Yeah.
And today we don't really need to go to the doctors all the time, you know. I mean, we can check our heart rates. We can check how many steps we need to take. We can check how many calories we have burned just by wearing a technology on your wrist, you know. Yeah. Or more on your finger, actually, what you're wearing, actually. Yeah. That's just not a ring, but that's a digital ring which records your sleep, which records your all your
everything.
BMI and everything. I mean, that to me is a real revolution. I mean, because that in earlier days when nobody really could track their health, today we can track the health with the proper data.
Correct.
And that really helps.
Yeah.
And one of the things that technology is enabled us to do is to create data and is to track data.
That's
And
true.
that has actually led to so many other things in the world. Which another example which comes to mind is about a platform which has created wherein you can actually heat map the location, and you can understand which is the best location. Let's say you're selling ice cream, so which
Yeah.
is the best location on a particular street wherein maximum footfall can happen for your store. So
Yeah.
those kind of things are really helpful and have taken the business to the next level.
Yeah, they're not just a thing of sci-fi either, are they? I mean, I think, Arjun, you made an interesting point when you talked about how simple technology is also revolutionising the way we work with one another. And in particular, you were talking about WhatsApp, as a piece of technology. I see you working on projects, as you'll know, guys, from our previous podcast, that Arjun is, amongst many things, is our titan when it comes to the design guardianship, the delivery of designs. If you haven't heard our conversation on design guardianship, I urge you to search it up on one of the podcast channels or on our YouTube channel, and you'll understand what we mean. But Arjun is using this live to understand the project. Arjun,
Yeah.
it's really, and also we're talking about now using things like 360-degree cameras to take pictures of the locations where we're working, so that we can understand the full environment with VR goggles and everything. It's just another world, and it feels like we're on an adventure, and it's like when you open your eyes for the first time, you see the world one way, and now we're beginning to see the world in a different way. All of the things around us can be experienced in so many amazing different ways. I mean, perhaps you could talk to us a little bit more about what your thoughts are on that, Arjun.
I mean, when it comes to technology, the whole of project management in itself is actually what do you call it, a bliss of technology.
Yeah.
Because probably the way we were looking at whatever you do, I mean, project management essentially does not mean anything to do with our field alone, but it's project management in everything that we do, right? From IT sector to building industry to shipbuilding industry to anything. So if you look at how the project flow has happened, how you control the project flow, how you analyze the risk, how you identify the risk, how you mitigate the risk, how you do the cost control, how do you bring in employee efficiency, how do you track employee efficiency, everything is related to technology these days. So more than the way I see it, I mean, there are numerous number of tools that you can use on a daily basis, which adds charm to the way we work. But that any which ways has to happen, because somebody or the other keeps inventing something new, and which will keep evolving over a period of time. So for example, if we talk about AutoCAD, ever since AutoCAD started, is there anything else that AutoCAD is doing? They're doing the same thing right from day one. They are a 2D drafting software, except for the fact that now they've started introducing more and more functionalities into the same thing, and then came multiple softwares which does the same function. So there are more enabling tools which helps us to work better, but at the same time, for me, what's more interesting is what is the impact of a particular technology that is done to do something new. So when AutoCAD came in, yes, that was a new thing. You didn't have to make 40 imagine a project with 200 drawings, 200 hand drafted drawings to be sent to the site. That project is never getting completed on time unless you have an army of people sitting and drafting that out. And now with probably 3 or 4 people, they'll be able to cover that ground. So I'm really intrigued and always interested by technology, how it has an impact to make things better, rather than seeing technology as just an enabler or a tool. I'm from that school of thought.
You're right, Arjun, I think.
Because you have multiple number of tools, multiple number of options available. Like for example, Nick, you know Blender, I don't, but I know Rhino. That's something that I've used, but both does the same function. And both of these are actually tools that you can use. And someone else will walk in and say, I don't know both, but I know 3D Max. So there are lots and lots of tools available. What we do with it matters more than all these enablers, how they kind of start changing things.
I think you're right, Arjun. I mean, I think we're saying the same thing, kind of, because I think you're saying it's not about the tool, it's about that. The tool's just the way you express yourself. And what works for one might not work for another. I chose Blender because it's free. Rhino you have to pay for. So me being a tight-fisted guy, I didn't want to spend the money on a piece of software that I might not want to use. So, and it's great. It's okay. And again, I think more and more, as the world becomes more democratized and people have more of a voice and are able to share more and collaborate more together using types of technology, for me, it's not going to be about the technology. It's about the way you interact with it and how you can create what's in your mind. You were talking, I was wondering what people used to do in project management before things like the project management tools in Microsoft Project and all these things came along. How on earth did they manage these complex projects? For goodness sake. Would it be a board on the wall with post-it notes and, like you see in these old war movies where they have things kind of moving around?
Exactly. I mean,
it's like a war room.
It would have been amazing to see how St. Peter's Square was built back in the day. And how they delegated work on a daily basis across many years.
Masterpiece.
To complete that sort of work.
I mean, yes, now I think our producer Dom is actually signaling us that we are almost up with the time.
The eyebrows are being raised.
But before that, guys, I also one of the things I would like to touch, or the last thing I would like to touch on is the economy. I think technology has actually changed the way we look at the economy currently. It all started with online stock exchanges, then the banking world completely got digitized. And today we are talking about cryptocurrencies, wherein a new currency has been introduced, invented. And I don't know much about cryptocurrency, but definitely it has paved the way with today $50,000 or something for the Bitcoin. And now we are talking about NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens and can be high priced as well, So the way these things are going, I think soon we will probably. I think we did this podcast before, but I think soon your paper currency might not be there. It might not exist anymore. I don't use it anymore. Any which ways.
I had this experience the other day. Somebody said to me, "I went to have a haircut," and the guy got a bit overexcited with the clippers. By the way, you may have noticed, guys. But and he said, "We don't take cards." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't take cards? Cash
Really?
only?" I'm like, "Well,
What?
I don't have any cash. Not paper money, and I don't have any cards either, any ATM card. So you either take a credit card payment or I come back another time." So he was like, "Okay, no problem, come back another time."
That's
So,
surprising, huh?
Yeah,
In today's time.
that was after he'd ripped me off, by the way. Can you imagine £100 for this haircut? The guy must have seen me coming.
Some special one, I should say.
Seriously, I mean, he got really carried away with the clippers as well. Anyway, that's another story. Rather telling too much about my personal life, but I think I feel like we could talk a lot more about technology.
I
and
thought
we could
so
drill
too,
down
yeah.
specifically into individual topics. But I don't know whether there's anything we want to wrap up with, because Dom's eyebrows are going up and down frantically. I'm a bit concerned about the wrinkles on her forehead. Anything else you want to add?
Not really, Nick. I think the topic is too vast, and it's always. We would enjoy talking much more, but given the time and the circumstances, I think we should follow what Dom's signaling us to do, and we should finally go on to the outro. Unless Arjun, if you want to make any final points.
I think we'll have to put a hard stop here. Else, what's going to happen is the voice and the video is not going to sync.
Okay, that's good.
The same technology.
The wonders of technology.
That's the technology there. Okay, something that needs to be still
limitation
worked
of
on.
technology.
Right, okay then. So I'll read my bit and then I'll hand over to you guys. Thanks very much, guys, for listening to The Art of Experiences. I'm Nick. This is Ravi. He's Arjun. And thanks to our producer Dom with the raised eyebrows. That's her giggling, by the way. One of these days you'll get to meet her. Thanks very much, Dom, for putting everything. She's shaking her head now. But thanks very much for putting the podcast together. We'll drag you kicking and screaming onto this side of the camera one day, Dominique. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, Nick. And yes, definitely, I think I echo your comments is that one day we should get Dominic across the camera. I think people are now wanting to see who is Dominic, and surely you'll not be disappointed.
Oh God, listen to that self-promotion, shameless self-promotion.
By the way, let me just tell our viewers and listeners that Dominic, and we lovingly we call her Dom, and she is a great influencer here in Dubai, and you can follow her on Instagram. I wouldn't give the Instagram handle. I think you can find it easily.
Yeah, she gets lots of free dinners. That's what that means. And you can always find her at a party.
All right, on to my own bit. If you enjoyed our show, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Art of Experiences, and please leave your comments below. We love your comments. We love that different people are listening to it. Tamim, a big shout out to you. And yes, please follow us. Thank you.
All right. So yes, join us on the next podcast where we will be talking about architecture that inspires us.
Wonderful. How exciting.
That's really
that'll be a good topic to discuss again. So bye for now.
Stay
Enjoy
safe.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take
Cheerio.
care.
Bye,
Stay
guys.
safe.